Do you want to live more sustainably but aren't sure where to start or how it fits in with your everyday living? The ReNewy Living Podcast simplifies sustainability so you can feel confident to take small, meaningful actions that fit into your lifestyle. Based on the lands of the Awabakal and Worimi people in Newcastle, Australia, you'll learn how to live lighter on our planet through practical ideas, stories from like-minded people, and examples of businesses doing great things. With an open heart and mind, join me, Marty Lee, as we explore how to consume less, build stronger community connections, and thrive in your neighbourhood, wherever you call home. Welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast. Hello, my name's Marty Lee and welcome to the ReNewy Living Podcast. Do you ever feel frustrated that the traditional large supermarket model isn't working for you anymore? In this episode, I'm chatting with Jayne Travers-Drapes, founder of Box Divvy. They're flipping the concept of how we think about fruit and veg shopping by changing the way your purchasing power works. Their unsupermarketing approach is all about supporting local communities and cutting down on food waste. Let's find out about this fresh approach to eating well and doing good. Welcome, Jayne.
Hi, Marty.
What inspired you to start Box Divvy?
Like a lot of things, if you're passionate about something, it works and embodies you and gets into your blood, and you get up every morning and you go, yes, I really love it. And so how this worked was like all passions. We had 8 families in North Turramurra who wanted to save on money, and we used to go to the market and we all took turns. But like a lot of those co-ops, they fall over. Oh, I don't want to get up. My kids are going to football or whatever. And so eventually they didn't want to do it anymore. And my partner, Anton, was in market research in groceries. So Coles and Woolworths were his clients. And he and I looked at each other and thought, well, why don't we partner and do something where we can change the food system? So this is going back more than 10 years ago. So we started. And we started a co-op type thing and we developed it. And then about 6 years ago, I was approached by Western Sydney Diabetes, because diabetes 2 now is pretty much the top disease in Australia, because it includes kidney disease, heart disease, you name it. It includes lots of things. And why we have it is because of our food choices. We're eating too much junk food and too much processed food. And so that's how it started. We changed the system a little bit. We made it more resilient, more scalable, and cost effective. So Box Divvy's up to 30% cheaper than supermarkets. So that's how it started.
Yeah, that's a really great start. So you started really small as a co-op in your local neighbourhood. What is the actual concept of Box Divvy? How does it work?
Okay, so basically, in order to save money, you're buying in bulk as a group. So a group is called a hub. For instance, you might have a carport or garage, and your neighbours join using the app that we give you and full training. And you can have up to 50 families if you want, but you can have 25, 30. And they go in once a week. They order on their phone or their computer. They have a 3-day order cycle. And they go in, mine's a Wednesday, so I go in on a Saturday, set my order up. And then I check it Monday night before cut-off, just to check how I can help some things get over. Because there are some minimums, like bok choy. You have to buy, as a group, 3 bok choy to make it worthwhile for the farmer. If I've got 1 bok choy, I might get a second one. Or if I haven't got one and we need 3, I'll buy another one. At the moment, we find the majority of what we call splits go over, that's shared boxes, they go over, because of the very limited minimums that we have. And I do my fruit and veg, my groceries. And in Newcastle and the Central Coast, they also can have chill. We home deliver that on a Saturday, and that's meat and seafood and cheeses and all sorts of things, olives and whatever. So that's how it works. And at the cut-off, I talked about that. That's when your card is charged. Then you go 2 days later, I go on Wednesday. I go to Wingham because I'm on a farm. And I go to Wingham and pick up my fruit and veg. So it's all there. I think the thing that differentiates us, Marty, is that we're totally transparent. You can see what we pay the farmer or the wholesaler, and you can also see what we pay the hubster. So if you ran the hub, you're the hubster. I can see what I'm paying you to run my hub and pack my goods. So it's all very transparent.
I really like how it's got that local element to it. I actually use Box Divvy myself, and I must say this is not a sponsored podcast episode at all, but I use it and I love that sense of connection that the person who's the hubster is a person that's in my neighbourhood, and you get to know that person and you get to meet and you look forward to the pickup day, which is for us, it's a Friday, and have a bit of chat. And I was there the other day picking up my order, and then I met a couple of other people that I knew in the area. So it's a real good community connection.
Yeah. I think that that's another thing that really differentiates us. And I probably is the primary reason why people stay. They tell us from our member survey, we found they come for the price, then they stay for the quality, and they continue on because of the community. And it's not just your neighbourhood community, it's your connection now with the farmers and the wholesalers, because we tell the stories of all the farmers. During COVID, people used to contact us and say, oh, thank you for Box Divvy, because the community just ran. We didn't even know COVID exists. We just went up and down and delivered, and people picked up, and we did all the proper things for scanning in and so forth and distancing. But we had no supply issues. That was another big thing about how we do what we do. In the Newcastle area, for instance, we've got 40 odd hubs. Just in Maitland, we've got 10, and Cessnock 7, and Port Stephens 20. So it's a very accessible thing. For those people who live in areas where we don't have them, start a hub. You earn income, and it's as you were saying, Marty, it's a great way to know your neighbours and connecting with your neighbours.
So your business model is a very unique business model. How did you get to that point of thinking that that's the business model that's going to work, and that we can tap into the community, we can have fresh produce and make it really accessible and affordable for everyone?
I think the thing that I am passionate about is I want to know your story. And if I know your story, then I have empathy and I connect, and then I want to help, and then I feel good. I don't know things, so I can come to you and ask. And that's kind of the premise of what Box Divvy is about, because it's not just about food, but it is about food. So the one thing that I've always said is story is told at the dinner table. Please unplug the kids and bring them to the dinner table, because it's there I learn about where mum and dad met, about my grandparents, what I did today. That's where my self-esteem building happens as well. And we have this thing, the mindfulness of eating. We take time to eat. We know our stomach then knows when I'm full because I'm giving it time. So lots of stuff. The dinner table is a really remarkable place. And I think that is one of the things that really trigger us to say, well, if we're going to change the food system, we can't do this alone. It's a movement that requires people. The other thing I'd love to tell you, I'm actually old enough to remember the first supermarket in Perth where I came from. And my mum took me, I was very little, and I remember it so well. We walked in, we have to serve ourselves. Oh my goodness, and we've got this wonky, because trolleys were even wonkier then. The poor grocer who we used to go and hand a piece of paper in to pack our goods, he closed within a few weeks, the supermarket starting, which is now repeated. As I said, in Western Sydney, it's a food desert. There are very few corner stores left. And so supermarkets have only been around 2 generations, 3 in America, and a generation's 25 years. So it's not been around long. And we've been convinced that this is the way. Well, hello, it's not.
No, I'm with you on that one. I did a slight bit of research about supermarkets, and I can't remember the exact year that it happened, but they talk about, I was looking through Trove in newspapers. In the newspapers, it was talking about that supermarkets have become self-serve. And in our concept of self-serve, we just go, oh, okay, that means no checkout people. But no, self-serve meant that you didn't have the shopkeeper choosing your fruit and vegetables for you. You had to do it yourself. You still had to go to checkout, but yeah, you had to do it all yourself. And similar to you, we had little supermarkets. So it was like a Fleming's and a Franklin's, which didn't really sell fruit and veg and meat and all that kind of stuff. You still had to go to the independent people. And I remember for us, we had to drive a couple of suburbs away to get to our local fruit and veg person who just did an amazing job with that. And then with the influx of supermarkets, which was what, 80s, late 80s, you really saw the demise of those independent food stores. So I like how you've got that story of this is how you grew up, reminding us that has not always been the way. Supermarkets have not always been the way.
It hasn't, as someone always says to me, because I live in the country, and one of them goes, "Oh, that's marketing. Everything's marketing." And he's right. Supermarkets are all about marketing. To the point now, locally in our Coles, it's really quite funny. They haven't got anyone on the floor. You have to self-serve. They've got a couple of things where you put it on, and it's almost like you are pretending to do your own checkout chick stuff, and you run along and then you check it out yourself. And then there's 6 people the other day standing there watching us. They were just watching. They weren't even helping. I had to keep putting my hand up like I was at school. Can you help me? Because the computer kept falling over. In America, they're actually testing that you put it in your trolley and you just walk straight out. It can zap everything in your trolley all at once.
Whoa.
So you load it up and you just walk out. Yeah. So that's part of what they're going for.
Far out. Well, this is why Box Divvy is so good, because you don't have that disconnect. It's all about the connection.
It's all about people. We will always be about people. We will. I can say that categorically. We will never change. It will always be about people. We have the farmer. We connect them through to packers at the warehouse who palletise everything. And we do a thing called just in time. And that's another thing that makes us different, why we don't have supply problems. Is that morning, the produce, a lot of it comes in. Some of the things like potatoes and pumpkin might come in the day before, goes onto a pallet, goes up to the Central Coast or down to Canberra or wherever it's going, packed by the hubster the same day and picked up by the member the same day. So within 48 hours usually of picking, you've got it. And then the interesting thing is then we've got to teach people what we used to know is how to store and cook fresh produce, because it's completely different. People tell me stories about finding their snow peas 3 weeks later in the back of their fridge and it's still good. But
If it's
about,
stored correctly, you mean?
Correctly, yeah.
Yeah.
But things like, you might get on the hot days, your parsley, your continental parsley, and it's a bit weepy. Well, people immediately go, "Oh, it's old," and they throw it away. Well, it's not. It just needs to be hydrated. So you just get some ice and put it in a little bowl or in your sink, put it in, shake it around, take it out, air dry it, because if you put it back in the fridge wet, it will just go all mushy, like, when you buy the baby spinach from the supermarkets, it's all wet and horrible. Dry it out and wrap it in a paper towel, put it into a container or a plastic, reused bag or whatever, and put it in the fridge. Some things don't go in the fridge, so I wouldn't put my basil or my mint. I put it in a glass of water on my counter. But the thing that we do, I've just done one with my daughter, a little video on freezing. So she spends all the time picking all the mint and basil and all the things like that, and she puts it into little bags and we freeze it.
Yeah. Okay. So freezing all the fresh herbs.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Absolutely. Everything can be frozen.
The way you store your produce is really important. I've just recently discovered that if I put the snow peas and the beans in a tall glass jar, sealed in the fridge, they last a long time. I mean, they're fresh to begin with, but they last a long time. And then all my lettuces and the softies, I wrap them, instead of a paper towel, I wrap them in a wet tea towel. So saturate the tea towel, squeeze it out, and it's all wet, because even though you put it in the crisper, things can still dry out. And the storing of the veggies, so getting fresh veggies in the first place and then storing them correctly makes a massive difference to how you can eat and enjoy your food.
And the interesting thing is farmers, when they deliver to us, we have them in waxed boxes, which we actually recycle back to the farmers. We give them back so they don't have to spend money on getting their boxes. They put wet hessian over the top to make sure that the herbs and everything survive. Otherwise, they won't survive. They'll dry out. You mentioned the word crisper.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to use a big X.
Yes, because it's not really crisper, but tell us more.
Again, this is marketing. Crispers don't exist. They're not real. They're a drawer that have holes that let dry air, which blows around your fridge in, which totally dissolves your hydration of your product. Now, I'll give you a classic example. People who don't know how to store food, they'll put carrots in there, and then 2 days later they'll go, "Oh, you've sold me flippy floppy carrots," and all the rest of it. What you have done is actually dehydrate that carrot. If you'd taken the carrots and either wrapped them in a paper towel and put them in a closed environment, or got it even better, a bucket of water, little container of water, and put them into the water, they'd last weeks. Calories the same, you can do that and change the water. So it's all about, don't use the crisper. Put your containers in the crisper, but don't just throw things in the crisper.
Yeah, which goes back to, what I was saying about before, cover them, put them in that damp tea towel because, it dries them out. And the damp tea towel is a great example of the crisper does actually dry things out because, you could go back in a day's time and a tea towel is dry. So you have to do that process absolutely again. So Box Divvy is great because you've got all this fresh produce. So how does that help us reduce food waste?
From our end, we have little to no waste because we only order what we need. We're not ordering like a supermarket that has no idea what they're going to sell and also needs to change over like it sits on the shelf, even a grocer. The waste is just unbelievable. And you'll see their lettuce, like their iceberg lettuce, getting smaller and smaller. You go in day after day because they're doing what we call grocering. They're pulling the leaves off. Probably 9 times out of 10, when our members receive their iceberg lettuce, it will have all the original covering on it, which is its packaging.
That's how they're supposed to be sold.
That's how they're supposed to be sold, without all the old, leaves off. And you can either compost those leaves or give them to someone who has a rabbit. The other thing I'm trying to do more is, as you know, with my supermarket podcast, is to bring in cooking, to encourage people to cook in a certain way with reducing waste. I'll also be addressing what to do. So, things like skins from onions and skins from your potatoes and don't throw them away. Put them in a bag and put them in the freezer. And then when you're making a soup stock or you want to put some additional flavour into something, take the skins. Even my apple skins and my papaya skins. I have a citrus bag where I keep all my old citrus. Another little tip, when you get a lemon or lime and they're not, maybe seasonally they're not as juicy, put them in the freezer. And then when you take them out of the freezer, you cut them and the juice what it does is it pops the cells. So all the liquid comes and they're really, really juicy. So that's how to keep your limes. I put them out for probably about 4 days, 5 days, and then that's max. If I haven't used them, they go in the freezer.
I did not realise that one about the freezer.
Yeah, it's great. My mum taught me that.
Yeah. Oh, see, it's that good old fashioned, you've got to learn from the people who are older than you for these fantastic tips as well. I also like how overall the concept is helping us reduce food waste. Like I like all your tips, like they're absolutely fantastic. But we're reducing food waste in your household already because you're only ordering what you need as a customer.
Yes.
And because it's fresh, really enjoy it. And I like how what you said before about food is there to be healthy, to be enjoyed and taste delicious. And that feels like something that you've done. And I also like how it's all local. So how important is local produce to a business like yours?
So the term local is manifested in everyone's imagination in a different way. And we look at local being mostly Australian. That's how we term it, because seasonally, if you want to eat local in Sydney, well, enjoy your cucumbers and your tomatoes, because that's about all you're going to get. Yeah, all right through the whole season. You won't get apples and you won't get pineapples and you won't get bananas and blueberries, and there's all sorts of things you won't get. And so local for us is Australia. In your sort of area, we've got Kulnura, Megalong, West Wyong, a lot of citrus from West Wyong, got Hawkesbury, Horsley Park, more into Sydney. We'll get our apples from Orange, Bathurst, but we talk about a 200k radius within Sydney. We've got about 38 growers. And later this year, I'm going to redevelop backyard growers. So I tried it a few years ago and it got too popular. So what happened was that Anton had to go in and load up the photos and change the prices, and it was driving him mad. He said, I can't do this. So basically the idea behind Backyard Grows is to encourage people to grow. And the one thing about Box Divvy is everyone along the line benefits financially. To be honest, that does motivate people beside all the other things that we're involved in. And so if someone can earn money growing a little extra, then why not? And then they can sell into their local food hub. So we're working towards that. They have to get their soil tested, and the hub store will go and visit them and make sure they're not spraying it with, all different things. So they can tell the story of that local grower as well. Again, as you were saying, Marty, it brings it more local. So you know that Julie down the road grew my tomatoes and someone else grew my cucumbers. But it also helps that grower because you've got 50 people in your hub. I've got 3 hubs near me with 50 not people, 50 families. That's 150 families. Multiply average of 3 people in a family. Whoa, I can't supply that much. So what I'm aiming for is I've got 12 spinach to give you, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 until it says sold out. And then the other supplier will kick in. So it helps me knowing I can sell whatever I've got, not be pressured to grow more than what I can't.
That's a really good concept because that's localising it even more.
Yeah. And for me, and for Anton, this is really, and our whole team, we are really passionate about this. There is a more diverse swing in climate. We're getting more floods, we're getting drier periods, and we need to be resilient in food supply. And if we don't kick in now, if we are going to hit a wall with climate, then we need to be prepared. During the World War, they turned all the backyards into food growing. So it is totally possible.
And that would be one of those biggest challenges of creating a sustainable food system, that you're right at the forefront of climate change or of natural bushfires, and then, your producers are stuck. They can't get their supplies to you.
Absolutely. Well, in 2018, we got 100 acres and we lost 90. We basically had everything burned down. We saved our house. That was by default anyway. I ran away that day. The flames are coming at us at 30 foot. And I went back the next morning and rang the RFS and said, "Did you save my house?" And they said, "No, at 11 o'clock at night, the wind changed." That's what saved my house, even though I set up with sprinkler systems and things. So we heard stories about this all the time. But the thing our farmers can't do, and we have helped them, we have our Farmers Resilience Fund at Box Divvy. Gerard Sard, who's a farmer that we have in Wilberforce, he lost his broccoli crop, and so we helped him with giving him seeds and fertiliser to start again. And then we bought back the product that he grew. So we have a lot of stories like that. The Resilience Fund is to start working with farmers on ways to make their farming more sustainable and more resilient. And so we do a lot of projects. So Western Sydney Uni, we're doing several projects with them at the moment. One's on diabetes. So it's looking at if you're near a food hub, does your health outcomes change? It will be published next year. We're looking at sustainability. There's a group there that are looking at taking one of our vans. It'll be a first if they can do it. You can make a van solar. No one has made the refrigerated part solar. So that's what we're looking at. That would bring us to zero in our output. It's very exciting. I've got goosebumps because it's so exciting. We're doing another one, prescriptions for doctors. So they write food and veg prescriptions for people, because your relationship with food, your food is your medicine, and your relationship with food. And people say, well, some people have, and some cultures have disconnected with food because they've been relying on takeaway and, fast food, etc. So we want to bring them back to cooking at home and being confident to cook. It's not hard. And it's quite enjoyable getting the whole family, getting the kids to cut up stuff and getting in there and saying, right, we're going to spend 30 minutes prepping and cooking dinner together. And it's the thing that we do every day.
I think that what you've just explained is you're a social enterprise, and a social enterprise is all about helping people and helping our planet as well. So all of your initiatives that you've got in the planning is a great example of your social enterprise as well.
The thing about social enterprise, we're a social enterprise business. I always say that, in that not-for-profit is going, as you said, towards a better planet. I chose that rather than a not-for-profit because I've been in not-for-profits and you lose the grant, you lose the project. It's really disheartening. Whereas a social enterprise can self-sustain itself, and that's what we're proving. You can actually self-sustain. We did recently do a capital raiser because we want to speed up our pantry line, which will give us basic, toilet paper and soaps and etc. But everything that we offer is good for you. We don't do Tim Tams and high sugar stuff. Occasionally we do croissant or, we'll do something just for a few weeks because like everything, you shouldn't deny yourself. As you were pointing out, Marty, you don't do like you do at supermarkets, go home with a heap of stuff you don't want.
That's right.
So you're ordering what you need, but then we'll have little treats as well. The other project we're working on, which I think is really important, is decarbonising. I talked a little bit about the solar part, but decarbonising our business. We reduce plastic. Most of the stuff you'll get in handfuls. That's why we ask our members to bring their own tubs and their own boxes to the hub, even sometimes their own Tupperware or containers or whatever they're using, bottles to put things into.
Even when I get my order, it's all loose produce. So the beans, the sugar snap peas, the light cheese, everything will just be in its little bundle, but in the box, and it's just unpackaged. And I like it that way because when I get it home, then as we were talking about before, I then just put it in the storage methods that I use. That is another key point, is you don't have to worry about any unnecessary plastic packaging coming into your home.
And I'll dovetail back. That's how the grocer used to do it.
Exactly. Like what I was saying before, when my mum used to go shopping back in the 80s, we'd just get the box and it would be just all loose produce in there. It's quite a really lovely feeling because when you get home, everyone else in the family is going, oh, what did you order? Like, I know what I ordered, but the rest of the family doesn't. So it's like really surprising, and then they can actually see what deliciousness is in there. What kind of stories can you share that are really positive stories, either about the community or the standout moments for farmers?
I think the standout for a lot of the farmers now is that they actually come to us and ask us, what would we like them to plant the next year? That's a standout because it means we're now working in partnership with our farmers. And whilst we're working around climate, we'll be able to say, look, we roughly think we can estimate we're going to be needing so many cauliflower or whatever. So they're cutting down on food waste. We've got another project. I can't talk too much about it, but one of the problems which we're going to try and solve, which will be an absolute standout, is the reason the prices go up and down and fluctuate is farmers just bring to the market what they've cropped. If they knew that this farmer was about to plant that, they know over a certain period of time it's going to be picked then. What if I can then cycle on a different cycle so that when I bring my product to market, it's not flooded. So therefore the price goes down. So if the cucumbers are in and everyone's bringing cucumbers, the price will go down. It's the way the market works. If it's short, the price will go up. If it's just even, the price is I'm getting paid a fair price. So that's something that we're working on, and that will be a total standout. I think the other thing too, we recently had trust tomatoes that were coming from South Australia, and there were so many flooding the market. This poor guy was getting $5 a box for them. And we said to him, how much do you need to break even? And he said $8 to $9. So we paid him that and we sold them for 10.
So he was getting a fair price.
He got his bit covered. So typically we pay 60 cents in the dollar to our farmers. The supermarkets pay 30 cents. And their profit is higher because they pile on the markup. So we often, you'll see the hubsters, and that's the other thing about community. Every hubster has their own Facebook page. We give them material to put on it, but they also then share their own stories within their own community, and they will show on their Facebook page, they've been to their local supermarket, and wow, that's selling for $6, but at Box Divvy it's $3. They'll show that. And there's no reason for it to be mucked up that much. Bar the fact that supermarkets do have a high infrastructure. They've got refrigeration and really take up a big landmass of the store.
Yeah, whereas yours is quite much a lighter footprint because you're already at someone's property, which they're already living there.
From a hubster's point of view, one of the hubsters told me yesterday that she felt so empowered being a hubster. And I said, why? She said, because I'm learning things I didn't know about, like running my own little business. I'm fully getting supported and trained to do that because we have a coach and I've got a sense of community, as you were mentioning, Marty, but it also empowers me to delegate. And I went, what do you mean? Well, she said, during the holidays, I paid, she's earning quite a lot. I think it was around about 500 from her hub. And she said, I pay a couple of hundred to someone to come pack for me while I'm away. And I'm still making money. So she said, it's great. And I know that I'm sharing through my community because my farmers are getting paid and I've also got somebody in my community. And as my hub gets bigger, I need someone to come and help me pack.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. That's a really lovely story to finish on. It's so positive. Thank you, Jayne, for your time. It's really great to hear that there's a sustainable food system out here that works for your community. So if you're interested in starting a hub of your own, we'll pop all the links in the blog post and the show notes. Otherwise, you can get in touch with Jayne through the website at boxdivvy.com.au. Thanks, Jayne, for your time. It's been amazing.
Thank you. And don't forget, Unsupermarket.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the ReNewy Living podcast. I hope you're feeling more confident about taking a localised and actionable approach to living sustainably. If this episode has inspired you to take simple action, please follow the ReNewy Living podcast so you can catch every episode. We'd love it if you could share this episode with your friends. It's a great way to spread the word and help more people join the conversation about living sustainably. You can even send me an email with the episode that really made it for you. Hearing your positive actions for change helps me understand how these stories work within our shared communities. Head over to my website, renewyliving.com.au, for the show notes and blog posts from this episode. I look forward to sharing more stories from the people of Newcastle as we delve into our community's diverse social and environmental practices for positive planetary change from a localised perspective.